What's up, guys? Happy Saturday night to you. Man, tonight is going to be a very special live stream and perhaps the most profound one that we've had so far because I'm joined with a fellow LA actor and model, as well as a full-time sports card flipper who has transitioned from part-time side hustle all the way up to full-time, which is super inspiring to me as that is my pursuit, but obviously for you guys as well, if you're looking to take this beyond just making a couple bucks on the side. What it will take to become a part-time or full-time sports card investor and flipper. So with that being said, welcome back. Now let's get to work. Let's bring on my guest, Coleman, who I think just grabbed his coffee. Coleman, what's up?
I'm all good. Hey, what's going on? Yeah, I got my coffee in hand. I'm good to go. Thank you so much.
Right on, man. Right on. And we're going to dive into a lot of different things about how you transitioned into full-time, as well as your passion for Tracy McGrady, who is one of my favorite athletes. But let me just say hi to some of you guys here. Paul D is in the house. What's up, Paul? Tao, what's up, man? Enbao, Mike C is always here. And what's up, Lee? El Duderino from the other side of the world. It's so cool to see guys in this community from we got England, Australia, Korea, Germany. Like I swear, like my German followers have now grown, which is insane. But dude, let's dive right into it, man. For anyone that's not familiar with who you are, give us a bit of a background about who you are, what you do here in LA, and where you started with sports cards.
Definitely. So my name's Michael Coleman. I started in Arizona, which is actually the state over from California for all your international listeners. And I was, just going to school and acting out there and everything and doing film out there. Acting's always been a passion of mine. I moved out to Los Angeles about 5 or 6 years ago. Started acting out here, was gaining a little bit of traction, but also, had my cards with me and stuff just because it's always been a hobby of mine that I've been doing since I was 10 years old. And, I kind of put it to the side right when I moved out here just so I could kind of like get everything like situated, kind of figure out my networks and stuff and try to build some traction. And then I started just slowly kind of getting back into it. And then a couple of years ago, I came back from studying Shakespeare in London. And I was so burnt out from acting from that year. It was 2018. I was studying with this acting teacher named Larry Moss, who's like really intense. And then I was studying Shakespeare at a London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art, Lambda, over summer. And then I came back from that. I was super burned out. And I was just like, I'm just going to take like a couple months and just do cards because, it's very therapeutic for me. It's a way to just relax. And I got bit super hard by just the card bug, I guess, just like the acting bug can do that. And so I got really back into it. It was 2018. Luka Doncic was a rookie. So he got me back really like hard because he was this like, phenom rookie that was coming out. I really loved watching him. So 18-19, I was just going crazy with it. I went to my third ever national July 2019 National Sports Card Collectors Convention in Chicago, July 2019. That was the third one I had been to, but the last one I had been to before that was when I was like 13 years old. No, I'm sorry. I was 19 years old. And then before that, 13. I'm 33 years old now. So I went to that, had a great time there. And then later in the year, about 3 or 4 months later after that, so like fall of 2019, a buddy of mine found out how well I was doing with the cards because I was kind of like keeping numbers and stuff like that. And he made me promise him to quit my job and just do cards full time and do acting on the side too. And so I did that. And that was about 1.5 years ago. And things have been going really well since. But one thing I forgot in there was in 2017, I took Dave Ramsey, Financial Peace University, because I was sick of being like a broke actor in LA. And I started building budgets and saving and getting out of debt. And I kind of like threw that in with doing sports cards because I was like, I need money to buy cards. And there's cards that I really want to buy, but I don't have the money for it because I'm a broke actor that's bartending just to make ends meet. And so with the Dave Ramsey financial principles, I use those to save money for cards and to get really defensive with my budget and cut corners and stuff like that. So I could put every single dollar I could into cards. And then when I jumped off late 2019 to do it full time, I already had an inventory built up of cards from putting money in for the last like 2 years. So, people hit me up and they're like, I want to do cards full time and stuff. And, I really explained to them like, this was something that I didn't even think I could do full time. Yet I've been working towards it like my entire life when I look at everything and of the history, my trajectory of how I got here. So not saying it's impossible. It's actually pretty easy to do. It's just, there's a lot to it. So, but yeah, anyway, that's my story.
Yeah, it's funny, man, because when I heard you on the Hobby Boxes live stream, and that's actually linked up in the show notes of this, because I was like, holy crap, this guy's speaking my language. I grew up with parents that were very financially sound, not really risk takers, but very much immigrant mentality, live within your means. Every dollar is working for you and needs to be saved, invested, or spent very intentionally, not like frivolous spending, not wasted, but it's either something I really want or it's going to be put aside to grow and become more dollars, like have dollar babies and grow and grow and grow. Mm-hmm. And so that was a default of mine. But the more I got into the modeling side, I realized that is not how most Americans are raised. And most of society is like, yo, spend, put on your credit card. It's all good. Debt is normal. But if you talk to people from other countries, a lot of other countries, they don't operate on debt the way that Americans do. So I found it very strange that I was thinking this way when so many weren't, just based on what is taught in the school system. And when you mentioned Dave Ramsey, a lot of you guys might know that I was actually certified as a Dave Ramsey finance coach about 2 years ago, actually, where I work with clients here in LA to get them out of debt. And of course, it's a lot of artists, a lot of actors and models, because money's kind of like this weird concept. It's, if you're a right brain person, you're artistic, you love doing all that stuff, numbers and finances for the most part just don't really intrigue you. But here's the good thing is that if you want to invest in sports cards and you want to do more of it and grow your money, there's a lot of ways you can kind of hack your own budget. So when you took the Dave Ramsey courses, what are some of the biggest takeaways you got, so that if you're here and you're looking to invest more in sports cards, you know exactly where you could start? Like what's some of the things that really stuck out to you from all the financial courses and people you studied?
The biggest thing that I learned was just the cash flow budget, the monthly cash flow. So basically just doing a budget every month. That was the biggest thing, because for me, I tracked like what I was spending and my expenses and everything. But when I started putting things on paper and literally allowing myself to put, because to pay your auto insurance every 6 months, so you can get that little deal on it by putting whatever amount of money every month into an envelope, so that when you do hit that auto insurance payment, right, like you don't have to be like, oh, geez, I need 6 months of money for an auto insurance payment. Basically, like the envelope system, being able to just like slowly stock away money for things that are going to naturally come up, so that I'm not constantly getting hit by grenades like of bills and stuff like that. But the cash flow budget. So like when I could literally look at a sheet and see what I need to put money into every single month and what my bills are, and then start seeing things like, oh, I don't need that. I can take less here. I can do this here. I don't need this. Or, oh, how do I save $5 on my cell phone bill? How do like groceries. Okay. Well, I don't need to get 2 bottles of wine every month or whatever it is. Like I don't need this. I don't need that. And starting to just like have fun with playing making it like a video game and like whittling it down to what can I live off of? What is like the bare minimum I can live off of? And then from there being like, okay, I don't need to live like a homeless person or like next to it, right? And like,
obviously, like the other half of LA.
Right. So, that was the biggest thing I'd say. And then I'd say one other thing was just realizing how important it was to get your dollars working for you, and how important it was to become financially literate and figure out how you can earn extra money through investing your money, whether it's even through a savings account, like an Ally online savings account, which gets you a good interest rate, or anything like that. Anything that can just get you some extra money. And compound interest. Yes, that's the number one thing.
Yeah, there's a famous quote by Einstein. It's like, compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world, or seventh wonder of the world, whatever. Those and it's like those that know how to use it. I don't know. There's those that know how to use it, and those that like it works against them. And you think of credit cards, it's like that is compound interest working against you versus you investing and being able to roll it over. So explain a bit about your money working for you.
Yeah. So I wasn't in any sort of like crazy like credit card debt. I was really fortunate about that. I was always pretty good at like paying off credit cards, but my thing was my student loan debt. So, you know, I had $40,000 of student loan debt, and again, it's not paid off to this day, but I'm in a way better position to where I can make bigger payments on it, and I'm not really worried about it as much because it's not massive interest rates like a credit card. That being said, it is debt that I want to get rid of. But yeah, so, you know, I didn't really have any bad credit cards or anything like that, but I did really add up all my debt that I did have and say, okay, I want to start getting rid of all this so that I can start using all my money only for investing. And I knew that by making monthly payments on credit cards, student loan debt, that's money that I can't be putting towards investing. So, you know, Dave Ramsey says, like, you want to get out of debt with the same intensity as the gazelle trying to flee the lion, the bird trying to get out of the hand of the hunter. He says it way more better. It's from the Bible, basically. But, you know, like this biblical wisdom that's so old, yet it's so true that, like, in order to get out of debt, you have to like attack it in such an intense way. And yeah, so that's what I really did.
Yeah, it's crazy how you know, it's like not just owing money and not being able to invest more in cards. It's the psychological stress too, man. It is a burden to be able to like look at your account knowing that, damn, I got this much going towards the car or towards the house. And it's funny because I make fun of my apartment here. It's a little 1-bedroom here in Hollywood, which I hate, but I pay. I was paying half of rent, which is about $700 a month, which is like insanely cheap for LA. But even the whole thing is $1,400 for a 1-bedroom, which is still really cheap. But every time I look at it, I go, that extra $200 a month is going towards sound investments that is going to turn into $400, which is going to turn into $8, going to turn into $16 at a very reasonable rate. Where like I hope a 50% to 2x return in most cases, with it not going for a home run, but just like a single here, a double here. Any other, like, for example, all right, you're full-time now, but if you were starting over and let's say you did have debt, let's say you really wanted to be full-time, but you were just starting with the market being super hot, card prices are through the roof. It's not like you had this base of $100,000 worth of inventory already. What are some of the ways that you would go about transitioning to full-time or pursuing it if you were just getting started today?
Absolutely. So let me just go ahead and say, anybody that was already in this hobby a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever, they have a distinct advantage. It's just the way that it is. It's like you got to Plymouth Rock first, basically. You had something that wasn't really worth that much, and all of a sudden you still have it, but it's all of a sudden worth an exponential more amount. So I have an advantage. That being said, if I lost every single card I have right now, I guarantee I could amass my wealth again within 2 years through cards because I have the knowledge on how to do that. Now, again, it's a little bit harder because I keep hearing people say, like, you know, Coleman, like, you know, everything's so high right now. Like, there's no good buys. There's no way to make money in this hobby. I had somebody that's told that or said that to me like a month ago. And then MJ rookie cards went 3x in like 3 weeks. So it's like, if you were just paying attention to that tidal wave that was building and you just bought one, then all of a sudden you would have 3x your money. Like even like a PSA 5 went from like $2,500 to like almost 10,000. I mean, so, but to give some real, some real like concrete information and advice about that, what I'd say is, look up what raw cards are doing right now. Whatever raw cards you want to get into. There's all kinds of ones. I'll just make an example here. And this is one that I own. I own a PSA 10 copy. I own like 2 or 3 raws, and I own a refractor of it. A Chris Paul Topps Chrome rookie. So it's about an $80 or $90 card on eBay. They're all notoriously off center. PSA 10s they were going for as low as like 750 to 800. Now they're going for about 1200 in the last 2 weeks because everyone's getting on the Hall of Famer train. But you can still buy a raw one for like 80 or 90 bucks. PSA 9s are doing 300. Most of them are all PSA 9s, unless they're like horrible looking. So I mean, even the PSA 8 is probably worth 150. So like if you bought it for 80 bucks, you spent 20 bucks to get it graded, it comes back PSA 9, you're tripling your money. That being said, yes, times are way backed up with PSA, way backed up. And like, it's not PSA's fault. PSA is doing everything they can to try and get those times brought down. We did this. The hobby did this. All these people that figured out that if you just send in a raw card that's worth $100 and it comes back a PSA 10, it's worth $1,000. Everyone figured that out. It's not a secret anymore. So now PSA is slammed. So what do? Okay. So for 20 bucks, you send it in, you get it back 4 or 5 months later. Well, that ain't going to work because it takes too long, right? Okay, well, that $100 card, $80 or $90 card, $100 card, if you spend 50 bucks to get it graded in 3 weeks, comes back a PSA 9. Well, now you're into it for 80 or 90 plus 50. So you're into about 140, maybe 150. Comes back a PSA 9, you sell for 300. You just doubled your money in 3 weeks. So like there's ways to do it. It's what are the cards that are raw that usually grade well, usually get at least a 9, sometimes get a 10 if you're really lucky, but just shoot for 9s. There's plenty of cards out there that like if you buy it raw, it's maybe like 20 or 30 bucks, and as a 9, it's worth like 3 or 4 or 5x what it is, because all the people right now, they don't want to buy raw cards because they have no idea about the risk of buying a raw card. They want to buy a PSA slab. They want to buy a BGS slab. They want that PSA label or that BGS label. That's what they want. That's what these people that are entering the hobby want. They don't want raw cards. So if you're willing to put in the research and the work to understand that these raw cards are value buys right now to grade, and if you're willing to put in the extra money to get them graded quicker because nobody else is willing to do that, that's why PSA has a 5 million card backlog, because everyone's trying to do it the cheap way because it's not a secret anymore. If you're willing to do things like that and you run the numbers on it, there's money to be made everywhere with grading. And then all you got to do is, be in the hobby circle, like, in the community, watching content and stuff, and you can spot trends. You can see what people are already talking about, and watching basketball games or watching football games, like seeing guys that are going to come up, or just buying GOATs, buying MJ, LeBron, Kobe. Those have all gone sky high, and I'm personally very, very cautious about buying MJ or LeBron mainstream cards right now, like Topps Chrome or Fleer. But
why is that? Just the price?
They're just so high. They've gone up so high. There's got to be at some point. There's got to be a slow pull back. I get that it's like it's not stocks because there's not an infinite supply. Like there's only so many, but at the same time, there are so many Fleer Jordan rookies. There are so many Topps Chrome LeBron rookies. At some point, I feel like there's going to be a pullback. Again, there'll be a pullback and it'll settle. And then at some point it'll go back up again. It's risen so fast. Warren Buffett, what goes up must come down. Again, it's not fine art to where it can't ever go back down again, but it's also not stocks where it can't like completely tank. It's somewhere in the middle. So it's like with that rapid growth, that LeBron Topps Chrome went up crazy, 3, 4, 5x. All that makes me do with the knowledge that I have in the hobby is, okay, I'm going to start looking at all the surrounding areas of LeBron that haven't experienced that growth yet, that I know people are going to be trying to get on next. So I'm trying to get ahead of like a wave coming, right? A surfing analogy. Someone was talking about this. It was freaking brilliant though. If you're trying to catch a wave, you can't catch a wave if you're behind the wave. You have to catch a wave when you're in front of the wave. And it's so important that you like time it perfectly, right? So like, if you see one thing go crazy, it probably means it's going to affect something else. If you have the knowledge on where that's going to happen, you can just make plays like all day long. Okay. So, I mean, yeah, go for it.
Well, I was going to say, man, so you have the knowledge, you have the formula because you've been in it, you're doing the work, and you can spot trends ahead of time. And this is the stuff I love because I feel like this with the news as well. I don't watch the news. I don't watch all this stuff to take it at surface level. I like to think to myself, if I was someone watching this news, watching this game, how would I react? And then playing the reaction of the person, not playing the reaction of the game. So it's like Nikola Jokic had 50 points, even though they lost. I think he had 50 points earlier today. So I'm automatically thinking, all right, what is my inventory of Jokic cards? Not based on his game, but based on how others will perceive him having a 50-point game. So my question to you is, you already see these trends ahead of time based on your experience, based on everything you've studied. How can someone learn to critically think and see the trends ahead of time versus relying on watching a piece of content or watching the sport and being the second one to react?
Right. I mean, again, like, I don't know that it's something that can be learned extremely quickly, but I would say that the more time you're in it and the more time you see these trends happen, because again, like, the market is this evolving thing. Like, everybody thought that if LeBron James won the championship, his stuff would continue to go up, but the opposite happened because everybody was trying to outsmart the market on it. And the same thing happened with Patrick Mahomes last year when he won the Super Bowl. His stuff went down because everybody was trying to outsmart the market on it. So, you know, it's a tough one. I'd say that the more time you spend in the market, learning, making mistakes, the better chance that you're going to have. But that's why I would say grading is a really important area, because grading is something that you can't do in any other investment field. You can't take a stock and grade it and watch it go 3x overnight.
You know, what's funny is coming from more of a real estate background, because that's my investment vehicle of choice, because I love the idea of cash flow. You know, my dream is to have a 50-unit apartment complex that just pays my bills in, like, the tenants pay the bills. Something that I wish sports cards offered, but unless you can rent out your LeBron rookie to Instagrammers to take pictures of, it's not going to generate revenue until the day you sell it. But with real estate, what a lot of people do is they find a fixer-upper. They find something that has potential, and then they put in $50,000 or $100,000 to make it beautiful and nice, so someone can move in and it's ready right then and there. And that's how I look at grading, where you see this raw card that people don't really want to touch. They don't have the patience. They don't have the knowledge. And if you could take that raw card, send it in and get a 9 or a 10, now you could 5x or 10x the value depending on where the card was at. And you're taking all the guesswork and the hassle out of the way. You're taking on that risk, but now you could sell it at that profit. And I had my very first PSA submission was 221 Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal cards, the vast majority being Kobe Bryant's. But I remember picking up these cards on Beckett Marketplace around May and June. And this is when Beckett Marketplace, I'm not sure if you've ever been on that platform, but it's card shops all around the country that list their low-end raw cards. Like, these are Topps Chrome, Topps Finest Kobe's. These are cards I paid $4 for. And I don't think I paid more than $5 because I thought, hey, I need to be able to liquidate at cost, worst case scenario. So a $6 card was like really pushing it. But I accidentally got those graded with a quicker service. It was the 20-day service at the time, which took about 3 months. And I spent $5,700 on grading these cards when I had only budgeted $2,300 because I thought it was going to be the bulk economy service. And instead, I clicked the wrong button. It went through way quicker. But what I noticed, because at first I was very distraught, I thought I'm losing money. You know, these are $5 cards that I thought would be $50 maybe for a PSA 10s. What I found is that people were flocking to the 9s and 10s, especially in the last 2 months. I think because they don't want the guesswork. They'd rather have a 9 right there, a 10 right there. And I was selling the 10s for over $100, right? And these are cards I had thought $50. It's a 2006 finest Kobe Bryant. It's a $10 card on Comp C, and yet it's $120 in a PSA 10. And I thought that was just absurd. But I sold all of them, and it made me really realize the value of having graded cards, especially during a giant delay. But also the fact that if I do the math, I may have actually benefited from getting those cards a lot quicker because I rolled over that profit into about 5 or 6 Klay Thompson PSA 10s that I got for $600 a piece. Now those are up to about $850 or so now, but I think they'll go up further. But if I can get a 50% return on those quicker and do that 3 times per year, that's a lot better than getting a 2x return just once per year. So it's like the velocity of money as well. And I know that's something you touched on as well with Boris, where you're not someone that will wait for a 3x or 4x return if you can move it and then have another opportunity to jump into. So can you explain a bit about that?
Compound interest.
There it is. Yeah.
That's all it is. Like, that's all it is. So I'll say this example, which this should kind of sum everything up. But again, it's really hard because with sports cards, we get emotional because there's players on the cards that we really like, of teams that we love to watch. And, you know, we get emotional because it's this tangible thing that we own. And it's like we're giving, like, sometimes it's like I see people selling cards to me and like they're like staring at it, like letting it go to me like it's like one of their children or something, you know, because of the emotion in it and everything. But again, so here's the thing. A really smart guy told me this. If you buy a card for $500 15 years ago, let's say it's a Michael Jordan auto. You bought it for $500 15 years ago. A Michael Jordan auto right now is probably worth about $6,000 for just a decent one, right? Amazing return. Amazing return. If you buy a card, any card, for $500 15 years ago, you sell it for a 10% profit for $550. And then that same year, you sell it again for another 10% profit. So now you're at $610. Stop for the year. You're done. Next year, do it again. Take your $610, buy something for $610, sell it for 10% profit. Now you're at $670. Do it again. Sell it for buy something for $670, sell it for $740. Stop for the year. Okay? That's year 2. You got 13 years left. Go all the way down to 15 years. I'm not going to do the math. Somebody can do the math. That's fine. The point of the story is you get to some stupid number. Like, it's like 40 or 50 or 60,000 or something like that. It's all compound interest. That's all it is. So it's doing 2 flips a year as opposed to holding a card for 15 years, $6,000 or like $60,000. So again, it's tough because it's kind of backbreaking when you take a $2,000 card, sell it for $2,500, and then 2 weeks later it's worth $4,000. Like, it's really hard to swallow that pill. And lately, it's happening all the time, like all the time, with this really liquid stuff.
Yeah, you know what's so funny about that is I get that sense of, do I hold and go for a higher profit, or do I get out now? And there's a question I ask myself, which is, it's simple, but it's, am I being savvy or am I being greedy? And savvy means I'm not being emotional. I want to get out, but I also know I have the confidence to find something else underpriced and to duplicate this. Greedy is, I don't want to do any more work. I just want to hit a home run. I want to win the lottery and this be it. And I just want to emphasize your point a bit with the screenshot right here. I actually got this off of the Dave Ramsey website while you were explaining it. Let me know if that's shared. Does that look good?
Yeah. So I can see it. Hold on. Here we go. Okay.
So if you see here on the left, your current age is 33. If you want to retire at, let's say, 67, and you only have $500 retired, and then you just put in $20 or $200 a month, and your annual return is 20%, your return over 34 years is over $10 million. And the reason why is because if you look down here, everything is very small at first, but when you see in 10 years and in 20 years, your money has become such good employees of yours that it's creating its own revenue. So if you think of your savings and investments kind of like zombies, it's kind of like there's zombies out there eating others, biting other zombies, and that's growing it exponentially, which is why in 1 year you can go from 8.7 million to 10.6 because you have so many of these money zombies working for you. And look, I know this is kind of nerdy, but this should excite the hell out of you, because if you are doing this, you know that you are growing steadily for the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. And it's a formula. Like, if you're out there and you're under 80 years old, this is a formula where you just get this down, and like wealth, whether it's in like probably not in cards overall wealth, but just real estate and other stuff, it's going to just grow and grow. And it's really the mindset. You have that formula of like, shit, if I just had one less room in my house, that could be my $10 million in 25, 30 years. Or if I rented out that extra room in my house, that could be the wealth right there. And so I can't stress that enough, because I learned that through Dave Ramsey and through others. But this is powerful stuff. But also that chart right there, that's exactly what credit card companies look at too, because they know that, man, we keep you on those minimum payments, $25 a month, $50 a month, and you'll never get out. But when you get on the flip side, know that that's exactly how people build wealth.
Absolutely. Compound interest, the eighth wonder of the world, right? And again, what makes a wonder is the fact that we can't wrap our head around it. We don't understand it. Like, you look at the Grand Canyon, you're just like, I don't understand how that could happen. Compound interest, you look at that chart, we can't fathom. When you look at the chart, you go, oh, okay, got it. That makes sense. But if you look at it at the long term of like, flip a card, people are like, what do you mean? Like, that over time adds up. But then you look at the chart and it's like, oh, okay, I get it now. So it's hard to comprehend.
And I think something else that's very underrated is that every time you have a transaction, you have an investment, you are learning a lot quicker. That one person that invested in the card and let it sit for 10 years, you don't learn that much, right? You're just sitting and letting it do its thing. But imagine having 1,000 transactions over that same period. That next transaction, that 1,001, you know exactly what you're going for. You know the 99.9% of cards you're not even considering. And so I look at it as, okay, what are the intangibles? There are the people I'm meeting. There is the knowledge I'm gaining. There is all these things where I would rather make a ton of mistakes, learn a lot, and be able to say, all right, year 2, I know what a lot of people would know in year 5 based on the amount of things I've experimented with. So, we're having a lot of great questions here. So I just want to get to some of them. I know, I think it was, where is he? It was about how would you get started if you're low budget? Like, is there anything you would do specifically if you only have, let's say, $100 a month to invest in cards?
Yeah, absolutely. I would, I'd look for anywhere from $5 to $10 to $15, most likely chromium rookie cards of players that their PSA 9 sells for like 80 to 100. I'd look at stuff like that. And again, like, find the safest way to go is Hall of Fame players. Paul Pierce, Dirk Nowitzki, Chris Paul. A lot of these players that nobody really talks about and stuff, but there's a demand for their cards, and Raw only sells for this, and PSA 9 sells for a greater amount. I'd look at stuff like that. Like, with $100, you can totally enter the market. It's just we get distracted by the really nice stuff, and we start thinking like, well, I have $100, but man, if I just had 200, I could buy this one card. Instead, like, why not take that 100, spread it around on a bunch of $5, $10 cards maybe, or even buy like a couple so you can have some money for grading and everything, and just start like that. Look, it's going to be a slow process if you're doing that, which is why it's so much more important. It's so important to, really take the intensity up and try to get that $100 up a little bit to where it's maybe 200 or 300, because the more you can put in, the more is available to try and come back and stuff. So, yeah.
And I would add to that, if you only have 100 or 200 and you want to take this seriously, I would look at the other resources you have in terms of time, right? Do you have more time than others? Can you go to more card shows or card shops? Can you make more connections? How would you use your other resources to your advantage so that you're not just focusing on, well, I only have $100. Well, what if you have $100, but you can work 10 hours a week at a card shop, or you can, I don't know, like, go around town to the garage sales and the flea markets and whatever, stuff like that. But I think too, if you only have 100 or a few $100 to invest, and you see like, man, I want to go full time, I want to do this big. I think that's where a lot of people get a bit greedy or impatient, and they are like, let me just go into a break, because if I hit this one of one Zion or whatever card, that can catapult me into full time. The issue I have with that is, if you are catapulted into full time just based on luck, like a break, you may not have the formula down. Kind of like when you hear about those people that win the lottery, how they go broke after 3 years, because they're given $20 million, but they don't have the knowledge to grow it or even keep it. So it's just like, hey, I'm good forever. And then taxes and family and this and this, and then lawsuit, and then they're broke again. So, I mean, I think of it like, I could have gone a lot heavier into cards last year, but I wanted more of a methodical approach where I'm like, I don't want to just throw Hail Marys down the field. I want to be like Tom Brady marching down the field, 8-yard pass here, 10-yard pass there. Defense is rushing me from the left. I drop it off to the running back on the right. Like taking what the defense gives me and always knowing that time is on my side. Like I don't want to be impatient about it. So if you are lower budget and you're looking to get full time, maybe it's all right, 2 years. How can I do this in 2 years versus I want to do this in 3 months, and then you're taking too many Hail Marys.
Absolutely. And to jump on that, I think there a theme in what you're saying there is basically limiting risk. Because what Tom Brady is doing the entire time is limiting risk, right? By doing the small passes and stuff like that. So like the easiest way to limit risk is to buy something and flip it immediately for a profit. That is the way you limit risk. So if you're going to garage sales and you find some stuff and you have the knowledge of what it's worth and what you can get for it, and you buy it for X and sell it for Y the same day, literally you're taking your profit and there was zero risk involved. So that's something too, like I see tons of people, and I even do this too sometimes when I'm at the card shop and I'm just like, I just want to have fun. I go through dollar boxes and I just look for cards that are 50 cents, $1 and stuff that like, oh, they forgot about this guy. This guy went up a month ago. This is now a $5 card. And I take that and it's like, it just feels good that like I'm making these little arbitrages, whether it's $1 or $500, because at the end of the day, like I have no because I know Dave Ramsey so well and the principles and stuff that like every dollar counts, that I enjoy just arbitraging like $1, not only like $100. And knowing that I can literally take it out of that box for $1 and then go up to somebody at the store and be like, hey, this is worth $5. Would you give me $4 for it? And then boom, I just made 4x in 2 seconds. Garage sales is a great way.
Dude, I'm telling you, I love Comp C for that. Are you familiar with Comp C or using it?
Absolutely.
Right, I'm going to share my screen because this is what I absolutely love. I started on Comp C with, I think I uploaded $100 of store credit. And now I may have about $4,000 or $5,000 into Comp C. But if you look here and just confirm with me that it's sharing. Is it good?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, like this Jordan Barcelona card purchased $270, got $995. Now, a lot of people are like, or got $945. A lot of people would be like, oh, $6. What are you going to do with $6? I see it as I turned $3 into $945. I mean, I pretty much tripled my money. This one right here, 92, 93 hoops, bought for $567, got 16. So to me, the trajectory, $5, this is all today, $5 to 37. Like that's what you can do when you're developing the formula and the strategy. Because I was looking at these cards when no one was thinking about Olympics. I was buying these Reggie Millers early on, 7 to 18. I'm not going to get rich doing this, but I will get a formula that works. And also you start to pick up on trends. Like a lot of the 90s stuff is selling because I could see it. Now I'm looking into more modern because I know at some point it's going to shift over to modern because sports are not going to stop anytime soon. Let me see here. I bought this Jameis Winston on the 10th of January before any of this talk about Drew Brees.
Sweet buy.
So, right, but here's my thought process. I go, this is a rookie card of a backup quarterback for $7. He's going to be in the league next year. He might be the starter, but if not, it's $7 for a rookie card of a guy that has plenty of years left, at least as a backup. This tripled my money in a month, right? Now you add that, if you're able to do that 4 more times over the year, now all of a sudden, what do we got? Like to 22 goes to 44 to 88, like it can grow really quickly, but it's really about the formula, right? It's really about, okay, how do I sharpen my brain versus get lucky? And I think that's why I'm personally not a big fan of breaks for myself, just because I want to rely on myself more than luck. Like I feel like I can do it on my own, even if it's not going to be a home run. But if you're starting small, man, understand that you can start small, but if you're going to do the research and say, this is going up, let me sell that. But what's the counter? What's going down? What's no one talking about? And someone here was saying, what's your take on the market I want to see if I can find that comment because modern basketball is dying off. So like with everything the way it is right now, what are you seeing in terms of opportunity to buy and opportunity to sell?
Well, modern basketball was too high. So older basketball, and I mean, again, modern goes all the way to 1970. So if you want to get technical about it, but what most people are talking about with modern is like 2012 and up. That's basically what they're talking about. They're talking about Prism, basically. And Prism started in 2012. So modern basketball, Prism, was too high. Comparatively to like LeBron James rookie cards, Michael Jordan rookie cards, stuff like that. So now there was value buys there with the GOATs. So now everyone flocked to that. That stuff went crazy. And the modern stuff dipped a little bit, but it hasn't tanked by any stretch of the imagination. It is like we've seen some retreats on some stuff up to like 20-30%. But and if you point out like a Kobe White Prism Silver PSA 10 going from 1,000 to 400, that's a special situation. So I'm gonna say in general, maybe we've seen like a 10 to 15 to 20%, retreat and stuff like that, but it hasn't tanked by any stretch. And now the gap has gotten to a place that's much more healthy, which is GOAT stuff, older stuff way up here, modern stuff down here. So what that tells me is, well, now there's the gap there. And now modern stuff, depending on who it is and who's playing well and everything like that, is getting a little extra leeway to go up. I'm not going to say that it's a good buy. I'm just saying like that's something to look at. But yeah, like, you look at like Luka Doncic stuff. Luka Doncic stuff has gone down. It's leveled off, even though he's playing really well. And I mean, people are like, well, I don't get it. The Mavericks are the second worst team in the West, but they're 4 games out of the 4th seed. It's like, yet people are saying like the Mavericks are horrible. It's like it's a weird, Anyway, that would be my take on it and stuff. Modern stuff is interesting to me right now because that massive gap that finally like got put there by the GOAT stuff.
What's funny is I feel like the more you learn about personal finance from all these people, you learn about life, you study people that are like super successful in any genre, you can really have more of a macro lens. And that's the way I always look at it. I never look at the headline for the headline. I never look at the game for the game. It's always like, what is the 30,000 foot view of this? And so I see, all right, Gary Vee has one tweet. He has one thing. All right, I'm thinking, what will this mean? Gary Vee tweets, this is underpriced. Okay, everyone's going to go there. After everyone goes there, then this is going to happen. This could drop because money's going here instead. And so like even looking at the NBA, I don't follow it nearly as closely as NFL because obviously my Bucks are in the Super Bowl. I'm having wet dreams about Tom Brady every night. Just kidding.
Hey, we all are. We all are.
Well, I was gonna say after tomorrow, it might actually be true. But the point is that like I don't care about basketball right now because of everything that's been exciting for Tampa sports, the Lightning, the Bucks, and I see it as okay. I could look at the charts. Like if you look at Card Ladder or Market Mover, you see the market. I think. Whatever you use, I was using CompC, their charts for forever, just because I need to see what the market is actually doing rather than what I think it's doing. And you could look on CompC and say like, all right, 15 of this card sold in the last quarter, but 120 sold the quarter before that. So okay, well, in the first quarter of the year, this card flies, but in the third quarter of the year, like January, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, barely any of it sells. So let me wait for that quarter to buy the card because it's going to be low. So there's certain ways of just saying, all right, if I take a big step back, what is going on? And in basketball, I think it's really easy to spot that there's a lot of mediocre teams. There's only a few teams that are really doing well. Only Jokic and a couple others are really having surprisingly great years. Everyone else is like 11-8 or 8-11, and it's way too early to predict the playoffs. But that giant wave that happens before the season, it's like Luka's disappointed, and then Trey and the Hawks aren't doing too well, and all these other guys that were pumped up really high. So what do you do with this money when you don't know who to invest in for the playoffs? Well, it kind of goes to the GOATs and the easy ones. But then 2 weeks before the playoffs start, I think that's when Modern's going to be very, very like going up again for a lot of these players because now the excitement is there and there's clarity around who's going to be in the playoffs. And then that excitement of like, all right, I'm in on the 6th seed, even though most people have him out. And what about this guy and that guy? But to me, I'm like, all right, well, when that happens, I'll look at the GOATs again, but I'm not going to be buying Jordan and LeBron or anyone really right now while that is the hot commodity to sell. Instead, I'd rather be looking at the modern while modern's low. But unless sports get canceled, modern's going to return, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I would agree with that too. There's no attention there right now. And you made some really valid points about the mediocrity that's happening with all the teams right now, outside of like 2 or 3 really good teams in each conference.
Yeah, exactly. So let me ask you something. I know you're a big Tracy McGrady fan, but you are from Arizona?
Correct.
So where the hell did that come from?
That came from I was 5 or 6 when Jurassic Park came out, so I was just like a big Jurassic Park fan.
Okay. Raptors. Okay. At first, I don't think Tracy McGrady was in that movie, but
no, he was. He wasn't in that movie, even though no, he wasn't in that movie. The Toronto Raptors were an expansion team in 1995. So I like Damon Stoudemire on the Raptors. That was one of their first overall picks. And then the next year they got Marcus Camby. And then the year after that is when I was really getting into the league, into collecting cards. And they had Tracy McGrady. I saw him. He had a lazy eye, looked kind of cool. I was like, that's my guy. Because all my other friends they kind of already got all the cool guys from 96, 97, like Kobe, Allen Iverson, stuff on Marbury and stuff like that. And I was like, well, I'm not going to collect like Antoine Walker or Samurai Walker or like Kerry Kittles or anything like that. I'm going to go next year. And then, it was Duncan, it was T-Mac. And T-Mac wasn't even a big player. It was Duncan and Keith Van Horn at the time, really. But again, like I saw Toronto Raptors, lazy eye, T-Mac's my guy. I just literally just went blind after him. Was like, I'm just going to collect his cards. And it was blind luck that he turned into anything. From my point of view, because I wasn't watching games. I was like a 9-year-old kid. So, yeah.
It's funny because all right, I remember Vince Carter was the big show in Toronto. I remember T-Mac was like the second guy, and then he came into his own, I guess, the late 90s, early 2000s, something like that. But I became a huge T-Mac fan when he came down to Orlando because Orlando Magic was my team. And as a Magic fan, you only know heartbreak because you start off with an expansion franchise, I think in 89 or 90, and then they get, I think 90, maybe something like that. And then they get Shaq, and you're like, oh, my God, this is it. Shaq is a beast. He is just tearing up everyone. They get Penny Hardaway, who quickly became my second favorite player. And then you think, all right, this is the duo that can beat Michael Jordan and the Bulls. And then, unfortunately, after, I think, the 95-96 finals against the Rockets, Shaq left to L.A. And I remember distinctly, this was one of my biggest childhood memories, was when Shaq announced that he was leaving the Magic to go to LA. That was my first heartbreak, for one, but it was also very confusing because I didn't know who to root for, if I should root for Shaq or the Magic. And so I ended up rooting for the Magic and being very bitter towards Shaquille O'Neal. So it went through a couple tough years of being a Magic fan until T-Mac came down, and then he was going to be the savior for Orlando. And in addition to his lazy eye, I remember he had like a gigantic vein on his shoulder. Do you remember that? I don't know if it was his right shoulder. I was like,
it was a massive one that went down. Yeah.
I'm like, dude, if you get a cut right there, man, you're going to bleed out. That's like the biggest arm vein I've ever seen in my life. It's like just a giant shoulder vein that goes down. So Google Tracy McGrady, I don't know, shoulder vein or something. But it's
a barbed wire tattoo as well.
Yeah, but he was a hell of a player. And I remember one time he was guarding Kobe Bryant, and I forgot if it was an all-star game or a real game, but Kobe had one of his patented pivot, juke left, juke right, then do a fadeaway, and T-Mac actually blocked the shot. He got like a fingertip block on it, and that's when I thought, this guy is legit. If you're blocking Kobe Bryant, then you're a hell of a player. And obviously, Magic still haven't won, but T-Mac was definitely one of the most memorable and likable players for me.
Absolutely.
But let me ask you a couple more things about getting full-time or just picking this side hustle up. And I think the big thing I wanted to ask you is, if you were just starting over today, if you didn't have anything from before and you were just saying like, I want to be full-time by the end of the year, period, what would be your first action? What would be some of the things you would do if you didn't have what you had knowledge-wise or inventory or anything like that?
I would go get as many jobs is, I mean, I'd go get survival jobs. I guess during the pandemic right now, I would, I don't really have a lot of skills, and, acting work has been non-existent for me. So I'd probably be like delivering pizzas, or, or working at Starbucks or something like that. I'd literally just go get a job like that. And
stripper.
yeah, exactly.
If the strip clubs were open.
Yeah. I don't know. I would do whatever I have to do to make as much money as I could make. And then I would probably definitely downsize. I would immediately get rid of my apartment. I'd get rid of whatever bills I have that I can, and I'd move into a roommate situation, probably living on a couch or something like I did when I first moved to town. And I would limit all my bills. I would get jobs. I might even live out of my car. I would literally cut down on all expenses. I know it's extreme. I get it, but I would cut down on all expenses. I would get some survival jobs and start getting money together, and then I would put everything that I can into raw cards and into grading. And I would get a pipeline of grading orders going. So literally, I would be submitting like at least an order every week of hopefully like 50 to 100 cards. And then I may even use like 18 month 0 APR credit cards to pay for some of the cards or some of the credit, or I'm sorry, the the grading fees, just to get me started, knowing that I will have those orders back before 18 months, and then I can sell those and pay off the credit, and then use it for cash reserves to buy more stuff. That's probably what I do.
Okay. And in terms of finding those raw cards, I mean, we got CompC, which I know there's a lot of mixed reviews because a lot of people send their raw cards that aren't grade worthy to CompC. There's StarStock, there's PAX, there's eBay. Obviously with eBay, it's high risk as well because you don't know exactly what it's going to pan out to, if it's going to be a 9 or a 10 or just going to be a 7 or 8. You can't really tell. So if you want to start with raw cards and do the grading, what are some ways to find cards that you can trust, or at least it's worth the risk?
Okay, so I'll go ahead and just say how I found my raw cards over the last couple of months. One, eBay, but I don't do it that much on eBay. I probably get about 10% of my raw cards off of eBay, and usually it's higher end raw cards that I'm buying off of eBay, just because I don't like doing the sales tax. I skip the sales tax by doing a company called Ship My Cards, and then they reroute it to me. It takes like an extra week or two to do, but I do that to avoid the tax. I usually do it on high end stuff. But again, on eBay, if you're buying raw, in my opinion, you got to look out for red flags. So look at the seller's other items. If they have graded slabs and then only a couple of raw cards, there's probably a reason why those cards are raw. But if you check all their other listings and it's all raw stuff, and it's like a guy in Arkansas or Kentucky or something, and he's not really close to like a Texas with BGS or a California with PSA, so maybe he's just not hip to the fact. Maybe he just doesn't like to grade. Some people just don't like to grade. You can look at that and be like, okay, that's an indicator right there. Message the people. Like most people are pretty upfront and honest. A lot of people will, embellish or not talk about flaws on the card, but just message. Just say, hello, be very courteous, be very to the point. Hello, how is the condition of the card? Would you mind telling me the condition of the card? Surface, everything like surface, corners, everything like that. So that's another way. Look at feedback, obviously. Look at how long they've been on eBay. If they just got on eBay, they have 0 feedback, and they have 1 raw card available, maybe it's not the best thing, but also it could work out great too. It could just be someone who has a really clean raw card that just started an account. Again, eBay is one way to do it. CompC, I'm sure, is a way to do it. I don't really know how to do it on CompC. Facebook, Instagram, those are ways to do it too. I think you're going to find less clean raw stuff that way. And then the way that I find most raw stuff is literally in person, because I can look at the cards. And I go to card shows. So if I go to a card show, I can go to different booths and look at people's raw stuff. That being said, most dealers don't have clean raw stuff because they grade too. But if you're behind a booth and you have your own table, or you're with somebody with their own table, there's going to be all kinds of collectors walking up throughout the show with raw stuff that are trying to sell their raw stuff. Sometimes it's clean raw stuff. Sometimes it's not. But there's so many people that don't care about grading. They just want to sell their stuff because they're into it for nothing. and they don't care about grading. And then, I'd say if you don't have money to get a table or anything like that, go to a card show and make a connection with the dealer. And, maybe even say, hey man, get a connection going with them, because then maybe at another time or even at that show, maybe you can pay him a couple bucks to just hey man, can I just be at the table with you? Or, I don't know. So that's how I find my raw stuff, is at card shows. I do find it on eBay. And then I'm to the point now where I've, established a lot of connections and stuff to where I can, I have people that are willing to sell it, that have it sometimes. And then my sports card store, Burbank Sports Cards, they have a lot of raw stuff as well. They grade a lot of their raw stuff, but they also have a lot of decent raw stuff too. So I'll be down there just stocking the cases, not stocking the cases, literally stocking the cases.
Yeah. Creeper stalking, not
creeper stalking. Clear on that. Creeper stalking. I'll be looking for $5 raw cards and stuff that they just don't want to put the work into grading. That it's a $5 card, but as a PSA 9, it's worth 60 or 70. I'll look for stuff like that too. So at local card shops, you can find that as well. But again, you kind of have to take into consideration that every raw card that you come across isn't going to be a gem. And so my way of looking at raw cards is I'm always looking for the flaw. That being said, if you don't know much about grading and you don't know much about looking for flaws, it's going to be really hard for you, because you're going to see the smallest little thing on the card and say, oh, this flaw will keep it from getting a good grade, when that might not be the case. I can look at a card and be okay, that's fine. That little nick is fine. As long as there's nothing on the surface, corners are fine. There's a little thing on the edge there, but that's fine. Whereas people will show me a raw card and be like, hey man, I don't think this can gem. What do you think? I think it's a PSA 9. I'll look at it. I'll be like, it's a perfectly clean card. So it just takes practice and everything. I'd say one good tip is just try to keep it narrow. Focus on just a couple of cards, you showed a Reggie Miller Fleer rookie. I'll use that as an example. That's not a good one to go after if you're trying to grade, because it's old and it's very hard to find that raw in good condition. But if you just focus on a card like that, you'll start noticing the centering. Okay, centering definitely matters on this card. Okay, corners, obviously, edges. Okay, most of these for some reason have this one edge issue. Okay, gotcha. So look for that. And then, hopefully find a card that raw is only worth this much, but as a PSA 9, there's a lot of upside to it. So you can kind of start that way. I use the Chris Paul example because I have so many people that ask me what should I be buying right now? And my answer is usually, I don't know, because otherwise I'd be buying it. But that's just a perfect example to me. It's it's a card that usually grades at least a 9 pretty well, as long as there's not major surface scratches or anything. Centering is an issue with it. And a PSA 9 is now worth $300 to $350, and you can buy them raw for $80. It's easy. And it's there's a million different cards just like that. You just got to put the work into, looking for it and researching and educating yourself.
Yeah. And I think just doing the simple math and from my first PSA submission, what I learned is 10s are freaking hard for a lot of these older cards, because a lot of the ones I submitted were 97 to 2005. So, throughout all the years, and especially because these were a lot of $5 to $10 cards that are now $25, $30 Kobe Bryant Chrome cards that I'm selling raw on ComC. But back then, this was a $2 card that people aren't oh my God, I got to keep this in a top loader and in a plastic case. It's more this came out of a pack. It's a normal card. It's not a parallel. So it was more likely to have some damage on it. But and tell me if you agree with this or if you'd alter this philosophy. But for me, if I'm going to grade a card, I have to be good with it being a 9 if it looks great. I cannot pay the price raw, assuming it will be a 10 based on my experience of how hard it is to get a 10, just not seeing the surface issues or whatever else. And I have a magnifying lamp. So I went through all that stuff. And I'll also say, I think I damaged a few cards putting them in the card savers, which were a bit tight. It was the smaller size. So for me, I would not spend money on a raw card, assuming I'm going to get a PSA 10. If everything checks out, I will do it based on what I expect to get after paying the service fee for a PSA 9. If it looks perfect, in terms of grading, is there anything like that you go through in terms of your expectations? I guess even the timing of, do I get this card graded, or because it's mid-season, I don't know if this player is going to go off in the next 3 weeks and I'm going to miss my great window to sell this raw card and triple my money right there, versus I get a 9 in 3 months time, but it's off season and I have to wait another 6 months.
It's so hard to time it right. So with prospects and stuff, you're kind of just gambling in that way, right? Like you might, most of my problem is when dudes are popping off, I don't have the cards on me. They're at PSA. But that's why the raw stuff I've been buying is Kobe Bryant rookie cards, Allen Iverson rookie cards, Tim Duncan rookie cards, because all that stuff, their careers are over, and with the Kobe stuff is just bonkers right now. And to answer your first question, absolutely. I do not submit a card expecting a PSA 10. I submit a card. I buy a card with the idea of it is worth $100. As a PSA 9, it's worth $150. And it's going to cost me $20 to grade it. I can make money off of this. Usually it's a bigger margin than that. I usually don't buy cards for $100 if the PSA 9 is worth $150. I'm usually trying to get a better margin there, but absolutely, I'm buying it with the 9 in mind. And if I hit a 10, it's like hitting a home run. But with a lot of these cards nowadays, 9s are like the new 10s based off of prices and stuff,
It's insane. Well, here's what's crazy is there's a card I'll pull up. And if you're in my community, you already know this card. This is the best flip I've made to date. And it's the Kobe Bryant Crusade card. I'm going to pull it up here on CompC, but I sold 3 PSA 9s for $225 to $275. Let me show you right here, because this is a phenomenal card. I don't care who you are, this is a phenomenal card right here. And this was when I was low budget, but I wanted to find something special. And so this card from the 2012-2013 set had angel wings, or it would appear to be angel wings, except for these giant dinosaur raptor talons back here, but they had angel wings in the back. And of course, with Kobe Bryant and Coleman, you live here in LA, you see the murals everywhere. This was a card I picked up for $8 to $10 a piece, and I got 5 of them graded in my first batch. I sold 3 PSA 9s from $225 to $275, something like that. Each. And then I sold 2 PSA 10s, and I did not want to get rid of my PSA 10s, but the first one I had up there for $799, buy it now or best offer. And the goal was to see the highest offer that came by and then tell my local guys that I've sold Kobe cards to if they would match it. And so it'd be more of like a win-win. Hey, you save on taxes and whatnot, and I save on fees, and I'll just pay taxes when I do the taxes and whatever. And someone bought it right then and there. So I listed my second one, knowing that there's a few more at PSA, for $11.99 just the other day, and I got an offer for $10.50, and I countered at $10.99, and it sold right away. But the point is, can you get in at a low price? Yes, you can. That was an $8 to $10 card. The most I spent on that card was $10. However, by going through CompC, which to me is like a library of most cards that ever existed, looking for things that looked a bit special, I saw that card, and once I saw it, I was like, all right, how many can I buy? And for $8 to $10, I bought them. I had $35 in per card, and the returns are $225 to $1,000 plus each. Like that's an anomaly. I can't say that's a normal thing. That's an anomaly, but it was also the result of doing the work, right? Searching for something special. There's another guy on here, Ben Carlos, who found a Will Smith, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air rookie card. And I was like, holy shit, dude, why didn't you tell me about this card? It's phenomenal. He bought up as many as he could. I went out and bought about 10. In fact, I'm going to pull it up right now. I have it right here. But it's like doing some extra work. In fact, look at this. I think this is a phenomenal card. It's a bit blurry because focus, but
it's a little bit blurry, but I get the idea. I've seen the card, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe it's better.
Still up. It almost got it. Yeah. It's almost.
Come on, camera.
There.
I think it's trying to pick up my face. Well, you get the idea. But
yeah.
The point is, this was, I think I got this on Becca Marketplace for $1. right? Now, a PSA 10 Will Smith, maybe that's a $50 card, maybe it's $2,000, but the point is that it's out there if you're lower budget, but you got to do something else. You can't just look at what's right in front of you.
So I want to say this real quick. I was grading cards 2 years ago, and basically a raw was the same as a PSA 9 in most cases. So I had to really, really look for clean raw stuff. And again, another way too is right when product comes out. That's another way too for everybody listening. Like right when product comes out, that's when you're going to get a lot of clean raw stuff too, because it's fresh product. But 2 years ago, a 9 was just as much as a raw because all these new people weren't in it. So it was basically just all the regular people with people still coming in and everything like that. So if you sent in a card for $20 to get a grade and it comes back a 9, you're losing money. So people say like it's hard to make money because everything's so high now. 9s are like the new 10s now.
Well, with the price that PSA is charging and the delay, knowing that, all right, just I sold all these PSA 9s, probably 120, 130 of them for $50 to $80 a piece. A PSA 9 of a Kobe Bryant Finest or Chrome or something like that. And I'm like, how is this possible? I bought the card for $4 and the grading could have just cost $12 if I clicked the right button. I clicked 25 or 20, 25 per card. So I got it quicker, but now I'm $30 in and I'm still making a $25 to $30 profit on a card that was $4 or $5. That's what I didn't get, but I'm happy about it. Obviously, like it's great. So PSA 9s, maybe with the price bump from PSA and the delay, it's just becoming more valuable. And I'm even seeing PSA 8s of modern cards selling for more than the raw equivalent, even if the raw card looks better. And I think part of it is just maybe it's security, maybe it's the liking it to be in a slab or the look of it or something like that. Any thoughts as to why PSA 8s of modern cards could even be seeing a bump?
I personally just think it's Catch Me If You Can is one of my favorite movies. And there's a quote in that movie, which is, why do the Yankees always win? Because nobody can take their eyes off the pinstripes. It's like whatever, like you present something in a certain way and people just believe it as that is the thing. And like I tell it to people all the time, we are not selling sports cards. We are selling PSA labels. We are selling BGS labels. We are just selling a slabbed. We're selling a PSA slab. We're selling a BGS slab. Like the sports card is just the thing that is in the slab. Because it's just what you're saying. A PSA 8 is worth more than a raw in a lot of cases now. Now, that being said, there are situations where there are very condition-sensitive cards, and a PSA 8 is actually a really good grade for the card. But that's not in most cases, especially for like a Kobe Bryant, let's say 2004 Topps Chrome, right? Veteran Topps Chrome card, base card. That card usually gets a PSA 9. So a raw copy should be worth more than a PSA 8. But I'm sure it's not because people just want the security, like you're saying. They just want, okay, it's a card, it's slabbed, it's not the highest grade, but it's slabbed. I know what it is. I know what I'm getting.
You know, that brings me to the question about the new grading company. And real quick, I see DexFlow has a question. I'm going to answer your question or have Coleman answer it in a second. But, you know, I look at it like a scarlet letter in a way. Like PSA has a good label, right? And, you know, good association. And then I look at GMA and HMA and VMA awards and CMA and whatever other companies are out there. And now we have the new one. Was it HGH or something? Or HGC? And
HGA, I think someone mentioned that to me today. HGA.
Okay. Not HGA. I'm a fan of HGA. HGA, I don't know. HGH is pretty awesome though. The point is like, and to me, it's like, well, look, they can color match, they could do all these things, and I'm like, yeah, but that's great. At the end of the day, we need everyone to accept this for it to be valuable, or I'm stuck with something that I don't know if I could liquidate for the profit I would like, just like PGI or VMA or whatever else is out there. Are you seeing or do you have any perspective on the new company or the power struggle between PSA and BGS and
Here's again, I'm going right back to the Yankees quote. Why do the Yankees always win? Because nobody can take their eyes off the pinstripes. Nobody can take their eyes off that pretty PSA label, that BGS label. And these are companies that have been around for a long time. And if you're going to try and overthrow them, all I'm going to say is good luck.
Bring something special. Bring Gary V. And when Gary V partners with it, you have a shot. But until then,
in marketing, you got to market it for many years. And it's like you're fighting an incredibly uphill battle if you're trying to take on a PSA or a BGS. They have all the infrastructure in play. Look, they've messed, and all these companies like PSA and BGS, they're not just counting money down there. They're looking into the different technologies like AI intelligence to grade cards and stuff. They're looking and putting money into all that stuff. The reason why like they haven't done it yet is because it's just too hard. It's hard to like actually develop a consistent robot or machine or whatever it is that can actually consistently grade the cards properly. They got to have human eyes for it. It's not just a simple like, well, we don't want to fire our graders because we have a machine that can do it. It's not that. So like I don't know what an HGA or whatever these companies are what value they're going to add. And then on top of that, even if they come in with an amazing value proposition to try to buck a PSA or a BGS, I just don't see it. I don't see any collectors going after it because collectors have an emotional tie to PSA and BGS. I personally don't see it. I say best of luck and all power to you. I'm rooting for you, especially if you're providing a lot of value and trying to do good. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, like when it proves itself that it's going to be here for a while, and then a good percentage of the market has accepted it as one of the top competitors, then I'll take it that way. But it's kind of like a catch-22 where they need people to respect it in order for it to be widely accepted. But until then, I'm only submitting to PSA, even if it takes a year, because I have the confidence right now that if I get the cards back, they will sell easily versus people looking at it like, well, if I crack it, I'll be able to submit to PSA and then, do something with it. But that's the way I look at it with GMA and PGI and whatever else. BCCG, I bought some BCCG, which it said Beckett on the back. I thought it was like, hey, it's BGS pretty much. This was back in March or April, not realizing that BCCG was the lower end of BGS. I don't know if you've seen BCCG. It's just like, looks cheap. It says Beckett.com on the back. So it's like, it's like when you see people wear Tommy Hilfiger jeans T-shirts. It's like, it's not even Tommy Hilfiger. It's like Tommy Hilfiger jeans on a T-shirt. It's very strange. But anyway, I want to show this question here for you from Dexflow, who is an avid supporter of myself and others here in the community. He was asking about Sasha T and Jake.
Okay, so I don't know who Jake is, but Sasha T started with $15,000 about 2 years ago. He has flipped his way into buying the cards that he's buying. He is classic compound interest story. He has literally done it through grading, through buying and flipping. That kid hustles so hard. I do believe, yes, he lives at home. So I believe he is rent free. I don't know exactly his deal he's got with his parents. So he is definitely cutting some corners, I'm sure, on bills and everything. But what Sasha T is doing right now is mind blowing. But there's a whole circle of kids just like Sasha T that are doing this right now on a crazy level. But they've been doing it behind the scenes for a couple of years now, and they've built up to this. And the cards that Sasha T is buying right now, for him, those are massive. Like, those are his biggest purchases to date every single day as he's doing them. And he is, I talk to him all the time. He's like asking me questions, all nervous about it, anxious about it and stuff, because he's like, putting himself into deeper and deeper water. But he has absolutely hustled his way into doing that. Through compound interest, buying and selling, grading, flipping, everything like that, nonstop.
What's interesting about that? You say he lives at home. You're big into living pretty humbly yourself, and I live pretty damn humbly. Like, I consider myself a minimalist because I just need the basics, and I need to have some freedom and the pursuit of something bigger. And I could delay gratification all day long, but there's also like a big I don't know, not an ego trip, but there's like definitely some flexing and some swagger in sports cards as well, where people, like they want to see it as a lifestyle, especially here in LA, where it's like, what do you drive? What cards do you have? Where do you live? It's a big ego thing. But tell everyone a bit about like maybe your sacrifices or the things that you're giving up in order to pursue this and to be able to flip cards for a living versus something just on the weekends or at night. Because I know there's a couple similarities there. Like your car is paid off, my car's paid off, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, right now, if I wanted to, I could go buy a brand new car from a dealership. If you gave me a couple of weeks of flipping, I could go buy a condo. I don't think that a really nice car, especially a really nice car, because I look at living in a condo or living in a house as a liability. Some people think that a house that you live in is an asset. It's not, because it's not producing any income.
Mm-hmm.
You're paying bills on it, and if anything happens to it, it goes down in value. So it's actually a liability unless it's producing income. If it's just appreciating in value, it's not an asset. It's a liability, technically. So I don't look at buying a condo or a house as the best use of my money right now. So I live in a 1-bedroom apartment here in Sherman Oaks in Los Angeles. Mine is $1,000 a month. I get a really good deal on it. But again, I get the water that comes out of my pipes sometimes isn't exactly clear,
Dude, I had to remove the little shower caddy from my shower in order to get under the stream of water because the water flow is so bad. I had like this little shower caddy going over the pipe, and I don't know what happened. I don't know if like a huge family just moved in, but I'm like, what the hell happened to the water pressure? I have to like crawl under, but it's temporary. But go on.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, the car I drive is a 2005 Toyota Corolla. Sport model 4-banger with 220,000 miles on it, no hubcaps. It's got dented things everywhere. The bumper's being held up by a zip tie that I had to do on my way to doing a sports car deal. So it's a $1,500 car, I don't care about any of those things because I'm the same as you, whereas I just see where I could put that money and make it grow. You're living like me, and you are living like nobody else is willing to live, so that someday we can live like nobody else lives. Mm-hmm. Like that's a Dave Ramsey thing, right? Like I take that to heart. Like I'm going to make sacrifices right now to live like nobody else so that I can live like nobody else later. And I'm going to be there a lot quicker than I thought I would be. And it's because of the sacrifices I'm making. Now, that being said, like when I first started this, I wasn't eating that well. I wasn't spending money on health and everything. Now, like I've made my budget to, make sure I'm taking care of myself because one thing that I learned early on is that our bodies are golden gooses that lay the golden eggs. And if we destroy our bodies, then we can't lay any more golden eggs, right? So it's like we got to be making sure we're taking care of our health and everything like that, whether it's physical, mental, chemical, spiritual, whatever. But that being said,
LA guy, such an LA hippie.
I know. So LA. I know. I took the man bun down just so I didn't seem like I was LA. But yeah, so I mean, like there's sacrifices and stuff, but it's not like sacrifices like crazy sacrifices. It's just like I don't need symbols of comfort. I don't need to show people how comfortable I am because I know how comfortable I am. I know what my bank account looks like. That's all. I don't need anybody else to know it. Like I know it.
And I think also something I find a lot of confidence in is the pursuit. I'm very confident in my pursuit. And I'm a huge personal growth junkie. So I know that like tomorrow I'm going to be a bit wiser spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, relationship wise, everything that I am today, because I know that's the path I've chosen to be on. So I want this to be a lot more than sports cards, because sports cards are great. But the one fear I have is I don't want people to have sports cards as their only highlight in life. I want it to be icing on the cake, right? I want damn, my physical health is great. I have great relationships. I'm not alienating my girlfriend or my wife or whatever because of cards. In fact, because of the flipping, now we can afford to go on this vacation, or now I can save for my kids' college tuition or whatever else. And I think that's where it's a bit of a slippery slope with some people, because I know with the breaking, it can turn into an addiction. It can go down that rabbit hole where it's like, well, my wife is going to leave me and my credit card debt is through the roof, where instead it's like, yo, if you learn, if you take this one day at a time and really find the joy in it in a sustainable way, this can enrich everything else. Like, I want sports card flipping to pay for a personal trainer for me. I want it to pay for more organic food, so I don't just get Trader Joe's frozen organic because it's $2 for a bag of spinach rather than $5 for a raw bag. You know what I mean? So, I see like a lot of similarities there, but physical health for sure, man. I don't know if I'd be able to do the research I could do and have the energy if I didn't have my morning routine and stay healthy like that. But it has been an hour 20 or so in here. And the one thing I did want to talk about too, with your car, and I drive a Hyundai Veloster, which is like the high school seniors, nerdy high school senior dream car. It's, if you're a guy out there and you want the nice car, you want all these things, understand that that's also who you're attracting. And I love the idea of like what we talked about when we got on the phone a couple of weeks ago, where it's a filter, man. Like, we are filtering out who is wrong for us based on how we're living, and we're attracting who's right. So if you're in that mind space of, I would invest more in cards or save more money or get out of debt, but man, I really want to impress that girl or do whatever. For one, it always starts on the inside, but also if you're attracting based on these things, then that is the person that you're attracting because you have those things. So you're not actually attracting anyone for yourself. You're attracting that person for what you have temporarily. Absolutely.
And what you said on the inside, basically, like, it doesn't matter what you look like, what you have, anything like that. If what is in here is solid, and like, you can like take that as hippy dippy, whatever you want to say. But the people that I love being around the most, it's not because they have a nice car or because they have nice clothes or anything like that. It's because when I'm around them, they have this magnetic energy that is so wholesome and pure and beautiful. And they take such an interest in me and make me feel like I'm great because they're just a good person that's taking a genuine interest because there's a human being right there that I look up to and I want to be around and I want to surround in my circle. And those type of people have no problem attracting whatever person they want to be around them.
You would use the word energy and attraction here in LA. This is like half the words I use, and it's just funny. But let's just leave it on this, because I know it's been almost an hour and a half. If you were your 18-year-old self or your 20-year-old self, based on everything you learned from personal finances as well as sports cards, what is one or two bits of knowledge you would tell your younger self just to get to where you're at either a younger state, a younger age, or to be further ahead than you are today?
I don't know that I would actually listen to it because I was an idiot, but I would tell myself to stop caring what other people think. Just stop and do whatever makes you happy. But more importantly, believe in yourself and take a bet on yourself, because sports cards was something I did since I was 10 years old. I was terrified to tell girlfriends about it. I was terrified to tell everybody about it. And now all of a sudden it's cool. And it's something that people look at me as like I'm like, Ken Golden said this. And by the way, anybody that hasn't gone on and watched Ken Golden's State of the Hobby IG live TV video that he did, go and watch that. It's a really great watch about what's going on in the hobby right now. But he basically said this, and it resonated so well with me, which is he's been doing the same thing he's been doing for 40 years, but all of a sudden now he's rich and famous for it. He's been doing the same exact thing. And that's how I feel. I'm not rich or famous or anything, but like, I've been doing the same exact thing, but all of a sudden now it's cool. And I held back and got out of the hobby so many times because I just told myself, this is not something that an adult should be doing. I need to be doing other things, because I was more focused on worrying what other people think of me as opposed to what I think of myself and what I want to be doing. So that's what I would say.
Right on, man. Where can people connect with you?
Instagram, 100% at Coleman_cards. Coleman, like the camping gear, the butane lamps, inflatable fishing tubes, pop-up tents, foldable lawn chairs, all that.
Yeah, you know the whole spiel by now. Okay, awesome, man. Guys, thanks so much for joining us in the chat. Again, connect with Coleman on Instagram. The IG is there at the bottom. And also watch the other interview he did with the Hobby Box a couple of weeks ago. I thought that was a great insight as well into his background and more principles that are just going to help you out in life. Again, guys, thanks so much. And Coleman, hang tight. I'm going to end the chat right now. Have a wonderful weekend or wonderful Sunday, and go Bucks.
Thank you so much.